Stevie Fast Jackson, KTR.
Drag racing has saved my life.
I know I've got Stevie hidden right now.
Oh.
I got to introduce the guest. Golly, we're just piling in here. I'm just going to start going. So everybody, I had a weekend off, but our guest tonight, know him, love him, hate him, whatever the case may be, this dude gets it done. He was in Orlando this past weekend for the Magic 8. If this got wheels on it, the dude can drive it. Me and him talk off and on a fair amount and kind of got a lot of things in common other than the fact I'm a dragster guy and he's a door car guy. And I'm going to quit swelling his head up and just stick him right on up here on the screen. 3, 2, 1. Mr. Stevie Fast Jackson joining us tonight on the DNC show. Stevie, what's happening tonight, buddy?
Man, hanging out. I'm in the shop working on building some more horsepowers and hanging out with you, talking about drag racing. It's not a lot much better that I like to do more than that.
It's either, for me, it's like either driving or talking about it, working on them. That's just like our whole world revolves around that. I mean, right before we went live, we were laughing about how much neither one of us watched the news because you can't believe any of it.
Right.
But what we do believe is everything we see on the internet when it comes to racing and, like all the stuff on Competition Plus and Bang Shift, you can believe everything you read on that.
Drag racing cuts the bullshit out. I can tell you I'm fast and I can convince you I'm fast and I can talk about it and we can have all this hoopla and you might even believe it. But one thing about drag racing is the proof's in the pudding. You're going to line that thing up and you're going to see what it's got. And that's why I love this sport, because it doesn't matter what you have done or will do. It's what you can do right now.
Right this very moment. And I say it all the time. That's what makes this the greatest sport in the United States, because we want instant results. And we have instant results. It is like an absolute street fight. You know a winner and a loser relatively quickly, and there ain't no doubt about it most of the time.
Somebody asked me yesterday if I want to go IndyCar racing. I said, for what? I don't got much time to do all that. Just go get it done. I got to go do something else for a little bit.
Exactly.
For 24 hours or whatever they do.
Yeah, I think both of us are a little bit too much ADD to sit there that long and crank.
Sometimes I'm bored by the 8th mile. You can tell.
Where that? So, Stevie, how'd all this get going for you?
Drag racing?
Yes, drag racing. 67 Camaro your dad had. Come on, let's hear about it.
Man, so when I was a little kid, my dad had a 67 Camaro. He bought this thing with a 6-cylinder in it, and it was a street car. It was that gold green, pea green color that Camaros came in 1967. First thing he did was paint it hot rod red, cut a hole in the hood, put one of them box style hardwood hood scoops on it from Summit, the metal one that riveted down.
Oh yeah.
Went to the junkyard. I remember going with him to we bought a 454 out of a dump truck. Hand ported the cylinder heads, put a camshaft in it, put some compression in it, put a bunch of nitrous on it, and we went out street racing. And that was some of my earliest childhood memories. We had an A-frame in the front yard. He'd work on cars, and I'd play on the A-frame all the time. And remember taking motor in and out every time it blew up. And every time we'd do something to it, we'd take it out on the highway. And kids don't do this at home, but we had to test the nitrous out. And biggest thing was getting it to not spin when you turn the nitrous on. And back then, nitrous was taboo. It was you didn't talk about it. You hid the bottle in the trunk. You put it in the spare tire well. It was hard to get. You couldn't get components for it. It was a bunch of soda machine parts that everybody kind of cobbled up. And, man, I was hooked right then. When he raced that thing for a little while and started taking it to the racetrack, the first time I went to the racetrack was at Carolina Dragway, House of Hook. I remember we parked the 8th mile, and, I just knew that that's what I was going to do. There was no other question. I didn't even know it cost a lot of money, or I thought you just could go and get a race car and race it. I didn't have any idea the sacrifice it would take or how long it would take, or But I was like, yep, that's it for me. And I started blazing that direction and helping him a little bit. And he quit racing a little bit after that, but I was bit. If he'd have quit 2 or 3 years ahead of time, I might have had a chance to have a normal job. But when you go to the racetrack at 5, 6, and 7 years old, they're just, man, drag racing has saved my life. It's everybody asks me about how dangerous it is all the time. How do you cope with that? I'm like, I would be dead in a box 20 years ago or 25 years ago if it wasn't for drag racing. I firmly believe that all of the world's problems can be solved with drag racing. Let me tell you why. If you have a race car, you have no time to burn down cities or kill anybody or rob a store. You have no money to buy any drugs or alcohol or anything bad stuff that does for you. And you're in the shop all the time, so people can know how to find you if you were in trouble. So if everybody will get a race car for a year, we'll all be broke and we'll all have fun and be together.
I 100% agree with that. So that sounds really similar to me. I don't remember my daddy drag racing, but he loved drag racing I don't even know how old I was, a little bitty kid. It's one of those things I can kind of remember, kind of not. But he took me to Lakeland Dragway, and I saw Big Daddy Don Garlits in a Top Fuel car. And that's what set me on this mission to drive a Top Fuel car. And you're 100% right. You know, you get hooked as a little bitty kid, and there's nothing you can do about it. It is just there, plain and simple.
Yep. What's crazy for me is the first, what I call race car that I ever saw, not stuff that like what we had. And, you know, the fastest my dad ever went was a 1082. I'm sorry, it was a 1084. 1084. And back then, that was a number that I was certain that I would never eclipse, but it was my life goal. Like I had T-shirts with 1084 on it. Like I was going to go faster than 1084. And but the first race car I ever saw was Scotty Cannon. He had the OnStat Willys.
Oh yeah.
And the Wild Bunch came in, and I saw a supercharged car, Nitro coupes. And what's really funny is that when Scotty Cannon was at Carolina Dragway running that thing, Phil Schuler was the crew chief on it. Like, that's really, we look back and talk about it all the time. I'm like, you know, you're responsible for me being how I am, because he's always dogging me out every day. I was like, you made me this way. But that was the first real race car I ever watched. And that's why I'm hooked on door car racing and pro mod racing. Because seeing those big old loud, smoky, stinking engines, I mean, we think stuff blows up now. Those guys blew up. I mean, they blew roofs off the cars. You had some old raggedy Hemi you got from a boat racer with like some blower on it that nobody knows nothing about, and you pour some nitro in there and you go run it.
Oh, absolutely. It's funny you bring up Scotty Cannon, because I've got like some notes so that we don't get bored like me and you can't figure out how to talk. But the last thing I wrote a note to myself was Scotty Cannon. I have these, you know, memories of Scotty Cannon, and a lot of them are in the pit area because I was an IHRA racer, sportsman racer, and I remember Scotty Cannon having a golf cart with nitrous on it that would do just absolutely flat out. I'm dragging the or do wheelies. I mean, Scotty Cannon is definitely a bad dude. No two ways about it, you know.
Well, when I started watching, and I want to go back to my 1084 so I can tell the 1084 story, because believe me, I have eclipsed it. But Scotty Cannon, he was, as a kid, how I wanted to be. You know, you're a little kid, and you know, you see this guy with a mohawk walking through the pits and telling John Force he's gonna slap him around. Like, I'm like, all right, I can do this. It can be done. You know? And then, you know, he drives the shit out of the race car and tunes the thing and runs it. And I'm like, okay, I don't need anybody. I can just figure it all out. And he's definitely awesome. Scotty's my hero.
I mean, like I say, he was kind of at the beginning of all the pro mod stuff.
Pro modified. Him, Ned Summer, all the folks that really were pioneers in the sport. Like, they started fast door car racing.
No way, no two ways about it. And, you know, I'm definitely, you know, I'm proud of the stuff I've done in IHRA. And I remind people pretty constantly, Pro Mod come from IHRA. You know, started sportsman. You know, it
Warrensburg, South Carolina is where Pro Mod started.
Yep, absolutely.
I was IHRA track and ran IHRA. And Pro Mod evolved from people that had top sportsman cars that were just too fast, and they're like, all right, we're gonna race these things, and it's a cool deal.
1084.
All right, 1084. So I actually started building this piece of junk when I was about 15. So I couldn't afford a car. So my plan was to buy a bunch of pieces from a junkyard and put me something together to drive. So I saved up $300. I think I raced a go-kart against a kid in the neighborhood a couple times and stuff. Man, I used to tear up anything. Lawnmowers, blow it up all the time. I saved up $300 and I found a guy that had an S10 pickup truck and I won. So I go get this thing, and it is the ugliest thing you ever saw in your whole life. I called it a cockroach. Couldn't afford to paint it. It was two different. The paint on the front looked pretty good, but it was baby blue, so I left that. But the bed was all rusted out, so it was primered gray. It ended up being two different colors of blue, and it was ugly. Everybody called it the cockroach. But I scraped up enough money to build a 327 for it. I got a transmission out of the junkyard. I got some parts here and there. I built my first engine when I was 15 or 16 years old. I say built it, assembled it, but to me, it was as precisely measured as you can do it with plastic gauge and a tape measure. So I get this thing together, and I mean, this is a disaster. I mean, there's nothing bolted in there right. I built the exhaust out of parts on the summit. I mean, on the AutoZone aisle or whatever I could find. We get this thing together. I get it running. It won't run. It's got a quadrijet carburetor that I stole off of somebody else's car. They let me borrow it. So for in high school, I told my mom, I said, I need a carburetor. I'm like, I got to have a carburetor. I don't have any money. She's like, well, I was going to get you something for a high school yearbook or something or whatever, graduating some grade. And I was like, I don't want that. I don't want any presents for my birthday and no Christmas presents. I want a carburetor. So my mama bought me a carburetor. I got a 650 double pumper and bolted on that thing. And good Lord, it was good. It was fast. It didn't burn out. I took it to the track the first time, convinced, told my dad, I'm coming for you. I'm going to crush you. I get there and unload this thing, and it runs a 1550. And I'm like, God dang it. I was like, I thought I was going to run 9s out the box. I started ripping the mufflers off of it, gut the seat out of it, bolted one of them plastic $60 Summit seats in there to like a 2x4 and take it to the track, 1440. I mean, I done gutted the heat and air, took the air conditioning off of it. Horrible. So I was like, all right. I was working at a service station, changing oil, pumping gas at the time, and my man Tim Taylor that ran Smith Chevron, where I learned to work on cars, had a buddy named Mickey who had some nitrous experience. So I told Tim, I was like, I ain't got any money. I was like, but if you can deduct it from my check, like I want to put some nitrous on this thing. So Tim worked out a deal with Tommy that owned the deal. We ended up going over to this guy Mickey's house, and he strapped me a plate on that thing, and I had a switch on where he put the switch where the headlight switch was. And he told me, he's like, don't hit this thing like till the motor's revved up. You know, you got to be going. The first time I pulled out his driveway, I stomped that thing and wrecked it in the ditch. Anyway, we get it out of the ditch. We haul it to the track. First run, I squirted it. The thing picked up 4 seconds. Went from a 1440 or 50 to like a 1082 or something like that. Crushed the 1084, 200. I drove it back to the pits. Did a donut, got out, jumped up on the hood like Rocky Balboa. I was like, I got you. And to this day, that's still the fastest feeling run I've ever made in my life.
Oh,
I never will forget letting go, wheels in the air, and thinking they were never going to set down. And when I got to the 8th mile, just the sensation of speed and the track going out from under me. I mean, I don't think it went but 112, 115 miles an hour or something. But man, to this day, I've never been that fast. Out of body experience. Woo, I'm excited.
Picking up 4 seconds is a huge gain, that's for sure.
I thought it would always go like that. So beside from working on, I was the only person in high school that had 2 full-time jobs. I had to lie about it and not tell them. I worked full-time in the grocery store, stocking stores at night, and then I worked full-time at the Chevron station in between schools and classes. So I was working 80 hours a week by parts. This is at 17, 16 years old. I would go to AutoZone. I remember I'd get my paycheck on Friday, and there was an AutoZone in front of the Winn-Dixie, and I would pull out of the Winn-Dixie and go to AutoZone, and I would stay there for about 2 hours and blow my whole paycheck in the performance aisle. And I would go to the racetrack, and that thing would be half a second quicker. I mean, I'd be like, man, it's always going to be like this. I can pick up a half a second a week. And now I'm like, in the winter, I tell my guys, we need 5 thou. That's all we got to get is 5 thou.
Oh, man. It's crazy. What I know, but those are the fun days. I mean, and just, I can't say that I've ever even thought to ask you this, but it seems like you have just always been grudge racer. Did you bracket race any?
Once. Okay, well, twice. I don't want to tell a story. I entered one bracket race with this S10 truck, and I was supposed to let the guy leave, and I decided when the lights were coming down that I wasn't going to let him win. So I just took off when he took off and broke out. I said, that's it. Then one other time, I was at the hottest drag race in the history of the world, Mark Samples race in Reynolds, Georgia.
Hey folks, we'll jump in the middle of the interview right quick with Stevie Fast. Hope y'all are enjoying that. But I want you to do me a favor. If you would, click the old like and subscribe button. That way you'll know when the next thing comes out that we do, whether it's talking to some awesome racer or being at the races ourselves. Thank you guys. Now back to Stevie Fast.
Track number was 165, so they halted racing cars and we had a golf cart race, but it was a dial-in race. So I had my golf cart versus somebody else's, and I was supposed to spot them and left when they left again and broke out again. So 2 times, 2 failures, that's it.
So I'm just assuming like Jackson, South Carolina, and was it just like a hotbed for grudge racing? I mean,
it still is. Jackson, South Carolina will put 6,000 people in there on a Thursday night. I mean, Jackson's been open Thursday nights, and then when I was a kid, that it would alternate. Sometimes it would be Sundays, sometimes it would be Saturdays. But in Augusta, Georgia, Columbia, South Carolina, Atlanta, Savannah, you go to Jackson on Thursday night. I mean, it's just a hotbed for grudge racing. I mean, they had a nice bracket program that they did on the weekends, but Thursday night it was us. I mean, and before the internet was big and you didn't have to wear a tail whooping like you have to wear now, we would run 6, 8, 10 grudge races a night. Not for a lot of money. Some of them be $50. Some of them be a big grudge race back then was $300. But I mean, at the end of the night, I've been done run 6 or 8 times, and I've been done got a paycheck, another week's worth of paycheck or lost it. And I won a lot more than I lost. I didn't have a fast car, but I was the most prepared person when we got there, and my stuff always looked like junk. And for a long time, I would wear them out. And then it got to where it was a little tougher and a little tougher. Then everybody wants a spot, and then you start running for big money. But grudge racing, man, I cut my teeth on it. I'll always be a grudge racer. It gives me an edge that unless you've sat on the starting line with more money than your house cost and have to do it right now, you can't understand that edge that it gives you. And you're not going to boss me around on the starting line. You're not going to boss me around on the top end either. I mean, I've got out of the car and been hitting the head with a bat. I mean, I could tell you some stories that you'll run out of bandwidth before we get them all done. But grudge racing is a huge contributor to who I am.
So with that, was it always on the racetrack, or did you ever do some big money races on the street?
We street raced some. We street raced a lot, but a lot of times it wasn't for big money. It'd be a smaller amount of money. I street raced a whole bunch from the time I was probably 17 to about 21. When I got 21, my stuff started getting too fast to run on the street. I mean, by the time I was 21, I had cars that ran, in the 4s and stuff like that in the 8th mile. And I didn't have the funds to build when the street car got too radical to be on the street, I couldn't build anything to run on the street. So I kind of really focused on the track. Anybody that does what we do and is hooked on racing like we has at some point had street race. It was a lot simpler back then. I remember street racing and having the police on the side of the roads betting money. And then I remember them catching us and them telling us don't do that no more. They don't throw you in prison back then. So prison is a deterrent to street racing.
So you worked at the grocery store, you did all that stuff, and then you kind of went into the fixing car business. I mean, did you work at a dealership or?
So I started out working on cars. It's the only thing I know how to do. I started working on cars at Smith Chevron in Augusta. I left there because I wanted to be a mechanic, and they were at that time they weren't doing a lot of heavy duty jobs. They were doing tires, oil changes, maintenance. It was lubes. It was a quick lube place. They had full surface gas pump. What I learned there though is I learned how to be a man, and I learned how to be honest, and I learned how to be a businessman. Like by the time I left there, I knew how to treat people. I knew how to keep your word, and if you can get that right, most of it falls into place. So when I left there, I went and worked at Tires Plus. Tires Plus is a franchise that's still in business here. It's just a car shop. So I went there at 18 years old. I left there and went and worked at Tires Plus. By the time I was 19, I was a master technician. I was like, okay, this is pretty cool and this is hard. And I started working on like modern cars. I worked there for 2 years, 2.5 years. I topped out salary. Like, imagine 20 years old. That's how good the technicians are, where you top out salary at 20. I left there and I went to a dealership. Went to a Ford Lincoln Mercury dealership. Became a master technician there. Master technician. They bought a Suzuki franchise. I did all that. Worked there for a while. Then I kind of got tired of Fords. Went to GM, Pontiac Place here. Become a master technician there. Worked there for a long time, 4 or 5 years. And all throughout this time, racing has always eat up all of my money, all of my dollars. So every dollar I make, I spend on race cars. You got it. So like the way I would judge success is by the time slip at the end of the night. I mean, like I'm becoming successful in life, not because I'm racing, but because my car's going faster. So I got to the point at working on cars where I couldn't make enough money to keep improving the car. So we had a tool guy, Charles Goen. He's still Matco tool guy here. Came up to the dealership and I'd buy tools from him, bought tools from him all the time. He messed with hot rods and painted hot rods and still does. So we kind of got to be friends, and he kind of mentored me into going into the tool business. So I left the working on race cars. Working on regular cars to selling tools to people that work on cars. And that was a huge jump for me. That was a kid borrowing a whole bunch more money than I should have borrowed and leveraging everything I had to kind of put it all on the line and become a man. And I did very, very well at it.
So you become a Matco Tools dealer?
Yeah, I was a Matco tool dealer for 6 years.
You bought a truck, the whole 9 yards?
Oh, the full blown everything. I was from
Dude, that's like that's over $100,000 you borrowed then.
I borrowed close to $400,000 by the time I got it all done. Because I had to buy a truck and I had to buy inventory and expenses. It doesn't cost that much now, but the way I did it, I hit the ground running. I didn't have their starter truck and I didn't have their starter inventory. I wanted to go in and knock it out. I paid that off in 4 years, and I was in the top 200 almost every year. From 2006 to 2012, I had a Matco tool truck. And man, it was awesome. It's the same principle that I learned at Chevron, though. You do what you say you're going to do, and you treat people good, and you are successful in business. It's not complicated. If you do that, you will succeed.
So 06 to 012, back in that time frame, I was actually sponsored by Matco. Did that mean you heard those messages?
All the time.
We would call in and leave messages, and that was back at especially 06. We were winning everything. We were like Stevie Fast in the NHRA. So I'd call in, Clay Millicaneer driver of the Winter Enterprises, Matco Tools top tier car. So you listen to those
all the time.
That's crazy.
Anytime we'd call in, the motorsports, and part of what lured me to Matco was that they were involved in motorsports, and I went in with this grand idea that I was going to go. I always want to run fuel cars. I was going to go in there and I was going to give me a fuel car deal. I was like, I'm awesome. I sell a lot of tools. I'm good for business and I can talk. I'm going in there. So I call up, I forget the guy's name. I call him up.
John Troy.
Yeah. I was like, I need some sponsorship. He's like, okay, call him back. Click. I was like, all right. So I was like, I'm gonna talk to these people again. So I finished top 200. I had to go up on stage and all at the expo. I go up there and I'm like, hey, remember me? I was like, I need some top fuel. I never got $1 from Matco, but I met some awesome people. First person ever let me sit in a top fuel car was Antron. And I didn't even know Antron then. This is a funny story. I don't know if you've heard this story, but Antron's he was sponsored by Matco at the time. He's walking through the expo floor and I'm sitting there just Google-eyed over the display top fuel traction. I'm just staring at it. I'm messing with it. They keep kicking me off of it and telling me don't touch the engine. And I didn't know it was a bunch of demo parts. I thought we could fire this thing up and do a burnout. Right. So Antron walks by and he's in full pace headed somewhere and he just stops. And he's like, you like this thing? I'm like, man, this thing's awesome. He's like, you want to sit in it? I was like, more than anything in my whole life. Antron starts piling all the crap out so I can sit in it. There's t-shirt boxes and stuff in there. The people come over there like, you can't do that. You can't put him in that car. This is an insurance problem. Antron's like, just get out of the way and shut up. He's like, don't break this thing. He sets me down in there, He's like, snap the throttle. I did. I was like, oh yeah, I'm pleased, fired up. So that's how I met Antron Brown. And, I've known Antron since then, one of my good friends, and he is an awesome mentor and ambassador for our sport, good at what he does. And met a lot of really cool people in the tool business, in the motorsports side. Met Phil Schuler around a little bit before that, but I knew all you guys. Y'all just didn't know me yet, but I was coming.
So before we get too far away from working at the car dealerships, what do you think when I say 949?
I knew you were going to bring that up. That was my car number until NHRA made me change it. And I tried to let me have that, and they wouldn't do it because I'm in the Southeast Division. That came from when I quit the car dealership. My employee number was 949. And I went and sat down with the service manager, and I'll never, ever, ever forget this because it's when I decided that I cannot fail. You ever done anything where you just cannot fail, where there's not an option to fail? I go in there, and I tell this guy, I want to go, love working here, but I want to do my own thing. I need to make some more money. I go into tool business. And he said, you're one of our best technicians. We hate to see you go. And he's like, you're making a huge mistake. You're making a big mistake. He said, I've seen a lot of guys try to do this. You're not going to be able to do this. So we go around and around. Finally, I get a little ticked off at it. And he looks at me straight in the eye. He said, you'll be back here in less than 6 months. He said, I promise you, and I'll bet anything you want to bet, that you'll be begging me for your job back at 6 months. He said, now I'm going to pay you $2 an hour less than what I'm paying you now when you come get your job back. Wow. And I looked at him straight in the eye, and I said, I will never work for anybody else again. And I walked out, and I haven't yet. I hit the ground running. So I had all my race cars were numbered 949 until NHRA made me change it by number because when I see that, I remind myself that I cannot quit working at 6 o'clock when everybody else does, and I can't quit until it's done, and I cannot fail.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So 2008, ORSCA.
Dun, dun, dun.
Tell me about it.
Grudge racing by that point had kind of dried up. The racing 5-6 times a night got to racing once a month. Then it got to where the cars were too expensive to run and just go make test passes. So what I did is I would match race people all over the country, but I would lock in punk out money before I would do that. And then if I got there and they didn't want to race, I'd get some punk out money. Well, finally that kind of got to where people just would pay the punk out money all the time. I'm like, I want to race. So the way I went from being what I'd call it a professional grudge racer to what I see as the beginning of my professional career is I just needed more competition. I needed something that was harder, and I wanted to run faster. So me and my buddy Marcus Proctor decided, and my buddy Matt, called him Wingnut, decided we were going ORSCA racing. So I had a nitrous motor in the car. I had a 632 in there.
Now, is this the orange car?
Yeah, this is the version 1 of the orange car.
Okay.
This is version 2 of the orange car. Version 1 I had already flipped and destroyed. We built this thing in my garage in about a month and a half ourselves. Built roll cage. I had all my buddies come over and help. Nobody charged anything. People donated parts. I think there were 4 or 5 orange cars. This is version 2. This is the one we raced in 2008. So I decided that I was not fast enough to compete in Easy Street with a nitrous engine. So I got a Pro Charger, and I knew nothing about boosted cars, knew nothing about centrifugals, knew zero about electronic fuel injection. And I was talking to Chris Tootin, who was a grudge racer, still a grudge racer, still races with us, runs a bunch of stuff around the small tire stuff where we run. They got a speed shop in Columbia, South Carolina. He was an arch rival of mine in the grudge racing game. Like, he beat me up pretty good. I mean, he outrun me pretty good. I think I outrun him once or twice ever, and he smashed me like 10 times. I mean, it was bad. He was talking to me, and he's like, well, you can figure out the EFI stuff if, you can get the main stuff, like I'll help you with the EFI. So he actually loaned me a big stuff EFI box and a harness. I got a Pro Charger. I bought a drive, and man, I was broke. We get it strapped on this thing and take it out there. Got it running, got it halfway running. Now I get this like all unprepared drag racers do. I get this thing running like 4 days before the race. I take it to Jackson. It won't even do a burnout, and we blaze off to Alabama. Stop off in Steele, Alabama on the way to test. I can't do a burnout. It won't run. The charge pipe's blowing off. It's leaking water. The head gasket's leaking. Just every imaginable thing is wrong with this thing. So we get to Huntsville, and I'll never forget the first time. If you've ever been to an ORSCA race in the late 2000s, it was like an NHRA national event it is today. I pulled in there. I had a 24-foot box trailer with a pickup truck and thought I was in the big time. I had never seen toter homes and semi-tractor trailers. And I pulled in there, and this place is covered, and there's 400 cars here, and there's 30 cars in my class. And I was like, I am way, way over my head. My hatred for turbos began at that race. So then I pull up in staging lanes. I'll never forget. I've told the story a couple times. We're getting ready for the first round of qualifying, and I'm excited. I want to meet all the guys. I'm going around introducing myself to all the Easy Street racers. So one of them looked at me, and he's like, "This is your first event?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, good luck with that." He's like, "You're going to suck." And I did. I went out there and got smashed in the first round, and there was some stuff that happened there with some turbo people that caused me to like really, really hone in on. I have almost eradicated turbos from the planet of the Earth. From the Earth. We want to get to that later in the story. I want to talk about how I've almost single-handedly eradicated turbos from drag racing. But anyways, I told those guys when I left there, they're laughing at me literally when I'm pulling out the gate. There was a race in 2 weeks in Jackson, South Carolina. And I said, I'll see y'all when we get there. I went to Jackson and I stayed in Jeff Miles' motorhome at the track and tested. And when we got to Jackson at the next event, I set the record. Qualified number one, won the race, and won every race that season except for one.
Wow.
And won the championship. One of those races, I ended up blowing up the ProCharger motor. This is in Valdosta. Tear the engine up in qualifying with the ProCharger. Loaded that junk up and went back to home to Augusta, hours down the road. Converted the car throughout the night back to the nitrous engine. Put a nitrous, I had to put bottle brackets in it and wire it. Went back to the track and ran the race with a carbureted nitrous engine in one race. Like, I was always eat up with it. I didn't ever sleep, like, ever. But ORSCA was a fun time. It taught me about being prepared. It taught me about organized drag racing and how competitive it is. And it also taught me about all the weasels coming in and saying that I was doing dishonest. I was cheating. I had nitromethane. I had nitrous oxide. My engine was too big. They tore me down more times. The last race of the year, all the race, not all of them, but a good group of them got up a bounty to tear me down. What they were going to do is they protested my deck height. So my buddy Chris Johnson, me and him were racing together, and they come up to me and said, "We're going to check your deck height on your engine. It's illegal." They wanted to measure from the water pump hole to the deck of the block. And I said, "Well, that's not how you check deck height. You got to check it from the crank center line." I said, "And if we're going to check my deck height, me and him we already got all the money we had there together. I think it was $12,000. We got it all together in a pile." I said, "I want to protest the field." I said, "So bring everybody over in my pits after qualifying. I want everybody's crankshaft out. And we're going to all check deck height."
Wow.
They ended up not tearing me down, but I got my point across that I was not going to be pushed around. That was a fun time. That was a good time. I made a whole bunch more enemies than I made friends back then.
Oh, man. It's but it's still fun to look back on. So was it kind of during that time frame? I mean, you mentioned, Phil Schuler running Scotty Cannon's car way back.
Yep.
But is it kind of during that time frame that you and Phil started seeing each other at the racetrack?
Yeah, me and Phil actually noticed me on the internet. Well, I'll say the beginning days of the internet. Phil has, and always will keep up with every drag race that's going on in the world all the time. We are literally, I don't care what it is. If there's no drag racing like cars, he'll be watching juniors over there on the live feed. He's watching bracket racing. He watches Top Sportsman. He watches you guys. He watches any type of drag racing in the world. He's the most eat up person with drag racing I've ever seen. So Phil had noticed that I was just winning all the time. And Jeff Miles, that owned Carolina Dragway then, was friends with Phil. And Jeff Miles was just in Phil Schuler's ear all the time about getting me a deal with a fuel car. Got to get this kid in a fuel car. Like, there's got to be somebody that can get in a fuel car. So that kind of led to that relationship of me and Phil talking. And in the beginning, it was just me thinking that relationship could breed into a fuel deal down the road. And we ended up becoming friends. He ended up asking me to drive his car. And after I burned it to the ground and he didn't fire me, I was like, okay, this is pretty good.
The Frankenstein. Did Phil drive that car?
No.
I didn't think so.
Bubba Livingston, who still tunes cars a little bit. I call him Grape 8 because he's 8 foot tall. Bubba Livingston drove that car.
I thought so.
And Phil and Bubba are still real good friends. I have tuned cars for Bubba. I have driven cars for Bubba. Bubba still, he's got a dirt track late model he wants me to drive. But I told him I will tear every panel off of that thing, but I will drive it. If we can make it like a 5-lap feature, I can do it. But anyways, Bubba was struggling cutting a light or something. Phil's a perfectionist. So Phil asked me in Orangeburg, South Carolina to come sit in the car and see if I can reach the pedals. And I look at Bubba and I'm like, there's no way. I get in this thing and this car feels like it was built for me. I was like, either I am exaggerating that I can reach the pedals or there's no way he could drive it. I see why he sucked at it. And I ended up going up there and running it. We made a run. It had a 5-inch motor in it. It had a Sonny's 5-inch 762. I had never driven anything with 2 carburetors on it. I had never driven anything with 3 systems. And I went up there and drove that thing, and it absolutely scared me to death. I don't know if you can tell it, but I was petrified. I had a power glide in it. And it was a ball of fun, and man, that thing was a handful.
That's crazy. So aside from him putting you in the car and kind of helping tune in this, that, and the other, what did Phil teach you kind of about the Grudge racing game? Because, I mean, he's definitely a legend in that deal. Phil don't take no crap.
A couple of things that Phil taught me, not only in the Grudge racing game, but going back to the tuning. Where I started tuning race cars, which is the biggest part of my business now, is when Phil Schuler turned the keys over to that thing. I had been kind of messing with it, and finally I got to where I was doing most of it. And I remember him telling me one day, he's like, "You don't need me to go to the track rig anymore. You got it." And you talking about like, I mean, I welled up inside. I was like, this guy trusts me with his car. Now me and Phil Schuler 50-50 business partners. Back then, all of it was his, the Frankenstein. But as far as Grudge racing, Phil taught me to never, ever back down. And if you're bluffing, you sell that bluff all the way to the end and don't ever let anybody push you around. I've seen Phil Schuler go toe-to-toe with some of the biggest, meanest, baddest people in the world. I mean, I'm talking about bad people. And Phil doesn't take – he still won't – try to get in Phil Schuler's face at the racetrack today and see what happens. Phil taught me that if you're going to race for big money, you're going to have big preparation. And that's where being prepared and winning comes from. Phil's the only person I knew that we would go grudge racing, and he's got spare parts. I mean, and I remember him telling me this in 2009. A spare part is not a spare part if you can't put it on the car. Because I can't tell you how many times I'd pull something out like I'm gonna replace the MSD box and I don't have like all the stuff on it, or the tag's not working, I gotta wire it in. He's like, it doesn't have a Deutsch connector, it's not a spare part. So Phil Schuler taught me to never back down. If you believe in something, run it hard as it'll go and be the most prepared person at the racetrack.
So let me ask this: do you think Phil learned some of that from Scotty?
Phil learned a lot of that from Scotty. When Phil Schuler, and we've talked about this before, when he went fuel car racing with Scotty, that was it opening his eyes like mine got opened about preparation. Seeing what you guys have to do to repair damage in between runs really opens your eyes as to if I can't fix it in between rounds, there's no use in it being in the trailer. I don't need anything to haul down the road that I can't get in the car and get running. So, like, when I see these guys at the track that can't put a piston in 45 minutes, I have a piston in the trailer. Just leave that at home and get better fuel mileage. So, Phil learned a lot of that from Scotty. Scotty was a really hardworking guy. He did a lot of his own work and was always over-prepared. And he smashed all those guys. Like, he beat those guys bad. I remember, like, going seasons and never seeing Scotty lose. And a lot of that's preparation.
So, in amongst this time when we're talking about Phil here, you got a call from a sheik and tell me how to say this properly. Is it Qatar or Qatar or Matco?
Everybody says it. Europeans call it Qatar. Yankees call it Qatar. Southern redneck from Georgia calls it Qatar. So it's about 50-50 split. I've had people in Qatar call it Qatar, and then some say Qatar. Qatar.
Okay.
Qatar. Actually, Qatar is how they say it, but I can't get my mouth hung up like that. But Qatar is what I call it. The orange car was at that time the quickest radial tire car in the world. Sheik from Qatar was getting into drag racing and wanted to have the fastest of every class of car. So he had somebody call me, and we were racing in Florida, and he said, I want to buy your car. I said, it's not for sale. And he said, sure it is. Everything's for sale. We're going to buy it. And I was like, well, you're going to have to be right about it. And in 20 minutes, he owned the car. So I made him pay for it, though. They think this thing's like an easy to drive deal. They get it over there and they can't drive it. They can't start it. They're scared of it. So they ended up flying me over there to run it. And that's kind of where my professional racing career took off. It never would have taken off without that orange Mustang. The dominoes that fell into place from one run in November of 2012 just set the stages of all of this happening. When I went over there and we won the championship over there and met Billy Stockland and met Frank Manzo and met Mike Castellana and met all these guys, and I started competing against them who were my childhood heroes and realizing that you can win, that's a big, big pill to swallow. When I flew to the Middle East for the first time, I literally had a pair of shorts, a T-shirt, and a passport. I went over there. I flew 16 hours on a one-way flight with no return ticket, no hotel room, no car, nobody's phone number over there, no idea where I was going to stay or where I was going to go. I just knew there was a racetrack over there. And I landed, and I was like, holy crap. I was like, I'm a country boy from Georgia. And my mind was blown. I was very, very overwhelmed. But I met some awesome people over there. Met Khaled Al-Belushi. Belushi took an interest in me right away. I mean, within being in the country for 5 days, Belushi's got me over there building transmissions and working on torque converters and working on his car. And in 2 weeks, Belushi's already working trying to get me a deal. So racing is like everything in life. It's people. It's people driven. And if you're not surrounded by a good group of people, it doesn't matter how talented you are.
So I want to know this one story about a car that was over there that nobody could seem to make it work, and you and Billy Stockland, who had kind of just met, it's like y'all got a challenge. And
Billy Stockland hated
had a big payday.
Billy Stockland hated my guts, and I hated his guts when we got over there. So Billy had never worked on a drag radial car, never worked on a Radial versus World car. He saw me on the internet blathering about how I was the baddest that there was. So he went and started working on Kyle Hutel's nitrous car, the Bad Niner, the original Bad Niner, just to come crush me. And they did. Come and whoop me. So when we met in Qatar, I was like, I'm going to beat this big joker's tail. And he's thinking, I'm going to snap this runt's neck. But one thing, just like in all of life, I say this all the time. No matter how much you like somebody, 90 or dislike somebody, 99% of the time, if you will spend some time around them and get to know them, you'll understand the reason that they are, how they are. And most of the time, you wouldn't dislike people. I hung out with Billy for 15 minutes, and I wanted to give him a hug. I'm like, this guy's brilliant. He's smart, and he's funny. Me and Billy get along. He's one of my best friends now. We started racing. We started talking about Pro Mod racing. He's just finished tuning for Doug Reister, running in ADRL. And he was over there running a car with Frank Manzo for Alex Hossler to drive it, screw-blown car. Ran 354, 355. It was the quickest door car in the world then. And I told him, man, I really want to go Pro Mod racing. Like, this Pro Mod gig looks cool. These cars are long. They got big motors, carry the front end and stuff. So all this time, unbeknownst to me, Phil Schuler is in the Sheik's ear just barking. You got Stevie Jackson over there. He will crush all these people if you give him a chance. Like, you don't even know it, but you got the guy over there. And finally, one day at the Sheik, I went over to Sheik's house, and I told him, I was like, if you give me a car, I was like, I'll beat everybody that you have that's working for you now, and I'll do it for free. And he's like, well, okay, go ahead. So they tried to give us a brand new Jerry Bickle 68 Camaro. And I knew nothing about this thing, but I walked up to Billy Stockland, and I said, and this was a big moment for me. I said, I am not racing that car. He said, why? He said, it's brand new. It's awesome. I said, because it's brand new and it's awesome. I said, if we win with that car, it's just because we have something that nobody else has got. I said, I want a piece of junk. I said, let's go see if he's got a piece of junk. An old Honey Badger was sitting over there. This was an abandoned race car that hadn't been down the track in 300 runs. Had 1,000 runs on it when I got there, and they had given up on it. Like some of the brightest minds in drag racing had worked on this car, and it was like an untamed stallion. It wouldn't go down the track. It was inconsistent. It was slow. And Sheik told me, they was like, all right, you want a piece of junk? I got one. They was like, we're going to cut it in half and use it for parts. But if you want to fiddle with it, go ahead. And I told him right up there before we made the first run, I said, I want you to tell me what I have to do to race a car in the ARL in the United States. Either you go 370s with this car or you have a full-time ride. And that's all you got to do is. So me and Billy Stockton went to work. And Billy didn't do a bunch of the work, but he did a lot of the planning. He did all the planning. I didn't know anything about this thing. He just told me, he's like, we got to get it light. And I'd go work on that thing all day long. He'd come over and we'd work on it all night. And I would think I had it light. And he'd look at it and he'd say, fat lady, take it all out. Take it apart. I mean, we took parts off that car that cars need. I mean, there was one bolt holding the master cylinder on because we didn't want to use another bolt. I mean, we saw the body off of it. We cut the back window out and put a piece of carbon on it. Like things that. And I've sold this story in the media. Billy gave me 100 zip ties. 100 zip ties is not a lot of zip ties for a race car. Race car's got about 500 zip ties in it.
Yeah.
He said, this is what you get because this is all the weight you get. I didn't eat solid food for over 2 weeks. I mean, literally, I'm not exaggerating because I couldn't get the car to run. It would run 380, 380, 380, 381, 382, 380 with a 3. Would not run in the 370s. Would not do it. And I mean, I've said this before. I've told the story, so I'm going to harp on it. But the night it ran 379, I was completely naked under my fire suit. I hadn't eaten in 2.5 weeks. I was about to die. I mean, and it finally goes out there and run 379. And that was the beginning for me. I was like, all right, nothing's going to stop me now. Nothing's going to whoop me. And I got that deal. And not only did we whoop up on them over there, we brought that piece of junk over here. Sheik tried to get me a new car to race in the States for 2013. I was like, no, I'm taking the Honey Badger to the States and run Pro Nitrous with it. We come over here and won the championship with the Honey Badger. We made ADRL add 200 pounds to the class overnight. Not 50, not 75. They added 200 pounds to the class because I could race that car with me in it in a 5,300 carburetor motor at 2,140 pounds. And back then, there were Pro Extreme cars that were light, but there weren't Pro Nitrous cars that were light.
Wow, that is crazy. That is unbelievable. So you had an awesome year then, and the wheels fell off.
The whole thing, there's a saying that goes that, if you do what you're supposed to do and win, you're going to get adversity. I have old enough in my life to now know that when like really good things are happening, let me tell you about the fun card. I've talked about this. We're going to talk about the fun card. Everything in life that you do that's awesome is like charging up your fun card. It's like a credit card. Okay. You got to pay the fun card back. So if you take out too much, like last year, we overextended the fun card limit. We had a lot of fun. So there's going to be some real bad stuff that happens that you got to pay back the fund. Some of it's already happened, but we won everything there was to win. We're dominant. We're going good. We got a brand new car going in 2014. Everything's good. And then I get fired. And so they fired everybody, fired the whole team. I was in bad shape. I had, by that time, sold my tool business for pennies on the dollar and was racing cars for a living, which was stupid. I made a really good living in the tool business, sold it for pennies on the dollars to go race cars, and got fired the next year. So we went from the penthouse back to the outhouse. Outhouse, penthouse, outhouse. And that was a difficult time. I tried running that thing on my own dime and failed miserably. You just can't do it. I mean, you can do it, but it was difficult. Billy, because of business interest and because he was tuning cars as a large portion of his salary, I couldn't afford to pay him anymore. So we split up and he went and tuned for somebody else. And getting defeated like I did in 2014 and half of 2015, like really gave me some grit. I mean, that was Jack Barbie. It was me and Jack. I wasn't paying Jack much. I definitely wasn't making a paycheck, and we were racing everywhere we could race, and that was a difficult time. I went an entire season without a win in 2014, and that's the only time that's ever happened. I I went to 4 finals, I think, but I did not turn on the winner's circle light in 2014. That was tough.
What saved it? What flipped it back around?
I got the fun card paid back up, so I could charge out more fun. And then Jeff sitting it on SEI oil field, Phil Schuler. Jeff had somebody running his car, and here comes Phil to the rescue. Gets Jeff sitting interested in getting me and Billy to run his car. Billy's from Texas, Jeff's from Texas. I was excited about doing anything I could do to go back racing with Billy. By that time, we're friends. And Jeff Sitton had a car that we grudge raced against, and we raced him 4 or 5 times for large sums of money, really big money grudge races all over the country. And we wore him out. He never beat me. So he told me, he's like, I can't stand your little ass. He said, but I'm going to hire you so nobody else can whoop me. And so we started tuning that thing and set every world record that there was in drag radio with it. He was the first nitrous car. I think he was the first one in the 3s, but he went 390 and set the world record in the old Hyde car. It was old 105-inch stock wheelbase Camaro. And I actually got enough money to go back pro nitrous racing. I never really the reason I run Marcus Burt's car is because I didn't finish pro nitrous like I wanted to. I did not dominate that. We won a world championship, and I've never raced anything that I haven't won a championship at. But at some point, I'm going to go back pro nitrous racing, and I'm going to smash some guys by 2/10 and make them all quit like I should have back then. But we had some success, won some races, and I started kind of really getting into tuning the big fuel-injected nitrous motors.
So I got to stop us for just a minute. This whole time, Donna has been sitting over here. We got a ton of people watching. I had to look at my phone.
Yes, we do.
And
I got one thing I want to say.
Donna's got to say.
Somebody said that you definitely need to be a motivational speaker.
Who, me or
Stevie.
I don't know about that. Come tell me that.
Everybody's wanting to know where they can get a no days off shirt.
So everybody's asking about your shirt.
Come see me on Monday after I got smashed by 5 foul in the first round of the NHRA Pro Mod season in Indy and see how much of a motivational speaker I am. I'm in the cave of despair. My lights are off in here. I'm like this. And you wouldn't want to be that. Okay, my no days off shirt, Marcus Burt gave me this when I first started tuning for him. I told Marcus Burt, I said, we're gonna redefine nitrous racing. He said, how are you going to do it? I said, because I don't take any days off. And I don't know where he got this thing, but I wear it when I'm fixing to crush somebody or have crushed somebody. I'll have to ask Marcus and I'll get back to you. I'll post a link on my Facebook.
So every time I do this, I know you're always working and you don't get to watch this. And we about went through our hour. But Donna's been sitting over here putting names in a random name generator. And every week I give away a cool little Parts Plus dragster.
I want one of them.
Send me your address.
All right.
Send you one. And also, I got it right here, a Parts Plus Motorsport shirt.
If we have it in the size, it might be a different shirt.
It could be a different shirt if we don't have your size.
Right.
But what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick this up, and I'm going to
Wait a minute. There's
two last ones. She's typing them in right now.
All right.
She's typing names in.
Maybe.
So we're trying to get everybody in here so they got a chance. But somebody's fixing to win some free stuff. That's what's fixing to happen here.
I like free stuff. I like giving away free stuff.
Me too. So here we go. It's going there. I'm trying to make sure I'm pointing at it.
Let's see who it is.
Let's see who's the winner. Greg McAnally. I hope you are still on here. And if you are, send me your address and your shirt size. Congratulations. You won some free stuff. That's cool. So I see you added the old cowboy hat on.
Oh, yes. After we crushed the field at a Radial tire race, I always, for about a week, become a cowboy. I start wearing my boots around and stuff and wearing Western shirts. And Phil's making fun of me. And Jack's like, oh, my God, we're going to listen to Hank Williams the whole week. And I will say I will embellish a win. Like, we're going to ride this thing all the way into the ground.
Well, I tell you what, I watched all 27 minutes today while I was out in the shop piddling of your YouTube you posted from your win this past week. Y'all dominated. But what I know is Marcus was 100% the best car until the final.
He still had the best car in the final. We just simply got away with one. I tell Billy from the time we get to the racetrack, we sit beside each other, and he's running my car and I'm driving it, and I'm sitting beside him running Marcus's Bert's car. I tell him, I'm going to beat your eyeballs out at what you do. And me and Billy have a really fun rivalry. But at the end of the day, there is nobody more efficient at tuning a race car, any race car in the world, than Billy Stockton. I believe that. I believe you can get a man a space shuttle and run it. And I kept poking that joker, and I finally got him pissed off enough to roll the dice on the starting line. And the only reason we won that race is because we run everything on a math formula, just like you guys do. X amount of degrees, X amount of DA, is X amount of timing. By that strategy, in 135 grains, it just wasn't working. Billy Stockton, I've seen him go a weekend and not move the starting line in time in 0.3 of a degree. When we go up there for the final, I look in there. He's got 2.5 degrees of timing in it from the run before. He's leaned the motor out a half a gallon and put 500 RPM in the launch. And I was like, don't just give it to him. I was like, I'm just going to smoke the tires. He's like, you're either going to smoke the tires or run out of his life, but we are not letting you let you go to that button and get drugged down the racetrack. And I said, that's my man. Let's go get it. And I thought Marcus Bert's car would run 55. The track is so good, it just sucked it up. It went 907 60 foot, which sounds good. Like that thing will run bottom 890s, and I was trying to run bottom 890s and just missed it. This is a true story, and if you go talk to the EMS at Orlando, they'll tell you this, and Marcus will tell you this. I was so angry when I got out of the car. He pulled off the track. I pulled off the track. I had burned the engine up, drivetrains locked up. Car's literally physically locked up. It locked up the tail shaft bearing. I got out and I'm cussing. He thought he had ran into me or hooked my car with his chute. And I mean, I'm mad. I threw my helmet in the seat. He's like, man, what's wrong? He's like, I said, God dog it, man, I'm sorry. I mean, I literally, it was 4 hours after that before I was able to enjoy the win. Because I want him to win so bad. And he had such a good car. I felt like as a crew chief, I had a dominating performance. And then I messed up, freaking beat myself.
I mean, it was hands down, Marcus Burke's weekend, and
he's going to win a lot of races with that car. I can't consistently outrun that car, and nobody else can either. Like that thing, I think is the baddest radial tire car that's running. Definitely the baddest nitro car in the world, but I will not be able to consistently pull them rabbits out of my hat. So we're going to hopefully race a lot more final rounds. The goal is always to race in the final, and everybody, you know this. Everybody's like, we're a team. It don't matter who wins. It does matter who wins. I mean, you want to win. And I told him after that, I said, man, I had no idea that I was going to beat you. I said, but I promised you when we started working together that when we go up, we're going to take both cars and run them as hard as they'll go. And he's all for that. He's a competitor like us. He's like, man, you just beat me today. I mean, and his driving has come along a lot. He's going to win a lot of races. I'm going to make sure he wins a lot of races.
So I got Donna's holding her finger up.
Somebody wants to know when he's going to run Birdman.
Oh, that's not even a race.
Birdman will never, ever have a car that's within 1/10 of what my car runs. But I don't have anything slow enough to run Birdman. He's been dodging me for a decade. You're lucky I don't like running the no prep Bird King or whatever that they have over there because I go smash that too. But if they can pick up a second of performance, then we will consider smashing the Bird Chicken.
Let's just hope he's okay. I know he did have a crash and was beat up.
I didn't know that. I feel bad now for talking trash about him. Did he wreck?
He did a couple weeks ago. Right. I heard he was hurt, but I have not heard any more.
I take back all the bad Bird Chicken comments. I didn't know he wrecked. Birdman, I love you. I'll send you a fruitcake or Christmas fruit.
I had a feeling you didn't know that, but
I'm gonna find out. I'll call him in a second.
Yeah, at any rate, I knew that was a non.
No matter how much we talk trash, there's nothing ever personal behind it. Everyone knows me knows that when we're on the racetrack, I want to kill you. When it comes to life stuff, I'll help you if I can.
Absolutely. So I got really two questions. First one being, I came down to the Door Slammer Nationals. You had a horrible, yeah, exactly.
I had to pay back the fun.
That's exactly. You had to pay back.
I had too much fun charged up on my fun card.
So I was walking around filming like a freaking super fan because that's what I was down there that weekend. And your car just like it goes down through there and it just turns. tore it up.
Bad.
Put you in a bind. You had to get ready to take Jeffrey Barker, who was all excited to drive into his first NHRA Pro Mod. We go to Gainesville, and that's the car you're going to race. What do you call it?
The Barker Max. I won't even tell you why I call it the Barker Max, but it's the Barker Max. I need to. So next time we do one of these, I'll tell you the Barker Max story.
All right. So you are going to drive that car and show everybody that you can make a nitrous car run in NHRA Pro Mod.
Absolutely.
COVID hit. We all go home. And I guess it did give you a little time to kind of prepare, but y'all didn't slow down much at all.
No, the first thing we did when COVID hit is try to find somewhere to race. We already had, besides the wreck, you couldn't be any more prepared to go to Gainesville than what we were. I mean, I had a hot rod, the quickest one in the world, coming off a world championship season, and we were ready to go. But as soon as COVID hit, I started trying to figure out where we'd go race cars. It gave us time to fix the NHRA car, so I'm grateful for that. But besides that, I had to get the race car on the track, so we started trying to run the shadow everywhere we could to go racing. I don't ever slow down. Like when I'm in the box, nobody will ever be able to say that guy didn't live his life. Stevie, man, he rested all the time. So I try. We're only here for a little bit, so I try to get the most out of all of it. But no, you're not going to ever catch me slow down.
All right, Donna's got it. Hold her finger up.
Now, is Pro Mod coming back to Indy next week?
Are y'all in Indy next week?
I'm not just coming. I'm coming to get it all.
Okay.
Yeah, Pro Mod is definitely running in Indy next week, and we're excited to be back. You don't normally get to go to the track where you just got crushed at and avenge yourself. But going out in the first round by 5 thou, that's not going to work. I got a new attitude. Me and my boys got our confidence back up. I got my swagger back. This is how confident I was going to the last Indy. I got one engine that's perfect, and then I got one that runs pretty good. And I run that race with a pretty good engine because I wanted to save the really good engine for when I need it. And I told the guys in the trailer before we loaded it up, I was like, that's the last time this year I don't run this thing as hard as it'll go. That could have been the only race we get to go to, and I'm going to show up with a B motor and get beat by 5 thousandths. No more. So today we ripped that whole thing apart. We got the A motor in there, and the boys going to have to come out running.
So it's funny you mentioned, you went out first round. I qualified number 1. I am the top of the pile with our little bitty team.
Yep.
Have car problem, a little stupid, nothing. Car won't run, out first round. But
so easy to fail over there.
I mean, it's like, what do you do? As a freaking air regulator is what happened. But that's what was wrong with our car. A freaking air regulator cost $356.
Yep, perfect.
That's it.
Take you right on out.
Take you right out. And I know what Donna wants to know. How come, and we don't understand why they put the final round off, who's Jason Scruggs, ADRL bad dude who's now trying to learn NHRA. Yep. They put all those finals off to the U.S. Nationals. In my mind, and I told Donna this, and I hadn't looked at the schedule, I thought it was because you guys, being Pro Mod, were not coming back until then to that track.
I don't know if they had officially announced it then, but from what I understood, one of the fuel teams could not make this race that was in the finals. Is there a first-time winner in Top Fuel?
It will be, yes.
Yeah, I want to say that was and I didn't hear that from anybody official. That's just what I heard, that because the fuel car couldn't come, they were going to just run all the finals in Indy. I guess they figured they have an extra day. Okay. I would, and if I was Jason Scruggs, we're going to have a first-time winner in Pro Mod. I would love for them to finish that this weekend.
Yes.
I don't know if that can happen or if it's too late for them to do that, but I promise you both them guys want to win, and the last thing they want to do is wait another couple weeks to do it.
I mean, that's kind of where I wanted to hit that point. It took me – I won a ton in IHRA, but it took me forever to win an NHRA race. I can't imagine –
having to wait that long.
Yes. Like, we're going around.
Right. And like you talk about Jason Scruggs being an accomplished 8-mile pro extreme racer, he has come a long way. When he first stepped over NHRA here last year, I remember the look on his face after the first race, and it's that defeated, I am in the wrong place, this is too big of a pond look. But Jason Scruggs isn't that guy. He just keeps working on it, and he's not loud. He's not like me. He's not going to tell you he's going to come smash you. He just will smash you. And he's got a good hot rod. Chad Green's car is running like a banshee. The forecast for Indy this time is 82 degrees for a high. Jason Scruggs, you're not going to outrun him. Chad Green's not going to outrun him at 82-degree high. So for him, it's more. I don't think he can. That blower car, when you give it an extra 1,000 feet of air, it's going to pick up a lot. So if we run them this coming weekend, it's going to be a barn burner. But I want to go with the supercharger car. If we go run them again in 95-degree weather, Chad Green's going to mop his tail up. So it's going to be exciting.
You know, Scruggs, he's kind of local to me. You know, and so, you know, he's always raced around here. Mm-hmm. And there's two things to know about Jason Scruggs. He's going to have a fast race car.
Always. Yeah.
And he's going to be in the field farming when it's time to farm.
That's right. Yeah. He's told me before. I remember last year he missed the race. And I was like, why didn't you come to the race? He's like, we had crop in the field. I was like, it can wait. He's like, no, it can't. He said, I could care less about this race car when there's farming to do. And I respect that.
Oh, me too.
I tuned Chad Henderson's car, and Chad's a farmer. And same thing. We would be getting ready to go to a race, and wheat's ready to be cut. And be like, wheat, can't wait a week. We're going to cut wheat, and you can go race the car some other time.
Last question, because I've already kept you more than an hour. Throw out all the rules. There is no rules. And Stevie Fast can run any combination he wants to run against all the guys you race against right now. What combination are you going to run? Rules are out the window.
There is no superior combination. There isn't even any other combination to be considered in the world besides a screwball and Hemi. And that is the most powerful, proven, and dominant power adder that has ever been constructed by man. And the only reason it's not the fastest vehicle in the world is because y'all can't run one. Screwblower racing, and now Roots blower racing, and now even nitrous racing have eradicated the turbo combination from the earth. We got like one or two more cars left turbo racing, and when they're extinct, they're going to be like dinosaurs. People are going to go in museums and see Proline cars sitting there. They're like people used to could race and think they could win with, and we have shown them that they're pieces of junk and belong on trucks to get you to the track. Finally, people see the light.
Stevie, me and you could just go on forever and we wouldn't get no work done. Man, thank you so much. This was fun.
I stand up from this chair. I'm about to go out there and put a rear end housing in the car. So got a lot to do in 4 or 5 days. I got a lot of irons in the fire. There's going to be some pretty exciting, maybe some exciting news coming up by the end of next week. So we're working on some new projects. It'll be fun.
That's awesome. That is awesome. You definitely are a busy man. And we didn't even begin to scratch the surface of a lot of questions I had like that right there. Like, we didn't even get to that.
You know, you talk about the poltergeist. That's the poltergeist. That thing will just show up on my live feed every once in a while on my Facebook feed. And I'm like, whoo. You know, when you look at that, you're like, I'm in there. And right now I'm thinking, I'm not going to win this round. I'm not thinking that I'm flying through the air, about to die, or about to be on fire. I'm looking, trying to figure out if I was across the finish line before that happened.
I've done that very flying thing myself in a fuel car. It is weird.
It isn't what most people think, but there's some people that talk shit about what we do. I'd love to take them for a little spin. You think one of these things is easy? Strap in the passenger seat. I want to see your eyeballs at the 330. I want to see how big they get. They're going to look like saucers.
Exactly. Well, buddy, I appreciate you being on. We will definitely do this again. When I told you I did some questions, we didn't even begin to get close to none of them. But you are a bad dude. I can't wait till one of these days you're in a fuel car and we're talking smack against each other.
Me too. I appreciate it. Your work ethic and your the way you carry yourself is an inspiration to all of us, and we appreciate it. I want to steal your race car every time I see you at the track. If I ever hear it fire up, it's because I'm in it. Don't leave the keys in it.
Well, let's do this. I can make this happen.
Don't say we'll swap because I'll go push mine in the yard.
I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't do that because I don't own the car.
That's right.
Have you ever sat in one and fired it up and warmed it up?
One time, let me tell you a quick story. I know you got to go. I'd love to do it again. We're at my first NHRA race, 2017, Gainesville. I am scared to death. I literally, when I pull in the track in Gainesville, I don't know like what you do at the gate. I don't know where you get your tech card. I don't know anything. And one of the Greeks guys comes over. He's like, the Greek wants you to warm up his car. And
Oh, wow.
I sat in the Greek's car and warmed his car up, and that was awesome. But anytime you need somebody to sit in your car and warm it up, I'm the guy. Just see if you can get the guy on the back project to set me down, and I'm going to get on out of there for you. I'd love to do that. That'd be an honor.
Well, if you want to do it, I'm not kidding you. You come over, because we do things to where the driver in the seat has to do something.
That's awesome.
Our car is not set up like some of the cars for the kids that are out there right now that just sit in there.
Right.
When I'm in the car, I have to do stuff like.
Right.
So I would love to show you that. And if you have time, you want to do it, we'll make it happen.
I have time. I'll be at your place in about 7.5 hours. So I'll be sitting there waiting in case you need to start it or anything ahead of time. Make sure it runs. Make sure it goes.
Exactly.
Make sure the air regulator works.
Yes, exactly. Appreciate you coming on, buddy. We will definitely do this again, and I will see you in a few days in Indy.
Thanks, all you fans who watch this whole thing. I know I'm long-winded. You get tired of hearing me talk. But thank you all for showing your interest in our sport. It's a difficult time in our sport right now, and you guys and us all pulling together is what's going to get us on the backside. So thank y'all.
Absolutely. Well said. Folks, next Tuesday night, I don't know where exactly I'm going to be at. I feel like I may have a sponsor thing I got to go to. I'm looking at Donna.
I don't know.
She's like, I don't know. She's the one that keeps me running. But no matter what, next Tuesday night, y'all will see me somehow, some way. See y'all next week.